Welcome into the dream. It's time to let go of the day, to release all the thoughts and worries, and gently drift into a world of peaceful rest. Settle into your bed now. Feel the softness beneath you, the warmth of your blankets, the cool, smooth touch of your pillow against your cheek. You are safe here. You are warm. You are ready to rest. Take a slow, deep breath with me, in through your nose, filling your lungs, filling your belly, and slowly, softly, out through your mouth. Let all the tension, all the busyness, just float away with that breath. Again, a deep breath in. Imagine pure, calm air filling every part of you, and a long, gentle breath out, releasing everything, becoming lighter and lighter, then heavier as you relax. In a time long past, nestled within a realm of emerald forests and sun-dappled glades, stood a home filled with warmth and quiet joy. Within its walls lived a young girl named Cinderella, whose spirit was as bright and innocent as the first blush of dawn. She knew the unwavering love of a devoted father and the gentle, profound wisdom of a mother whose heart was a wellspring of kindness. Her mother, with eyes that held the depths of the earth's most ancient secrets, taught Cinderella that true beauty resided not in outward adornment, but in the purity of one's spirit, in acts of compassion, and in an unyielding courage to face life's trials with grace. Days unfolded like a silken tapestry, each thread woven with laughter, quiet lessons, and the simple, profound joy of familial affection. Their garden, a riot of fragrant blooms, was a testament to the care and love poured into everything they touched. But even the most radiant tapestries can be marred by the cruel hand of fate. A shadow, silent and insidious, began to creep into their peaceful existence. An illness, relentless and unforgiving, gradually dimmed the light in Cinderella's beloved mother's eyes. Despite every prayer whispered, every remedy sought, and every tear shed, her gentle spirit, like a fragile butterfly, ascended beyond the earthly veil. The silence that followed her departure was a palpable weight, a void that echoed through every sunlit room, every familiar corridor. Cinderella, a child now touched by the cold breath of profound grief, clung to the whispered memories of her mother's words, her lessons of kindness and resilience, as a fragile anchor against the rising tide of sorrow. Her heart, though bruised, held tight to the belief that love, once given, never truly vanishes. In time, the profound loneliness gnawed at Cinderella's father, a man of inherently good nature, but adrift in his sorrow. He saw his daughter's quiet melancholy, the way her laughter had faded, and believed she needed the comforting presence of a mother's guiding hand once more. His search led him to a woman of noble lineage, a widow named Lady Tremaine. who arrived accompanied by her two daughters, Drusilla and Anastasia. Their smiles, at first, seemed agreeable, their voices soft, promising a new chapter of warmth. The wedding was a quiet affair, a hopeful attempt to mend the broken pieces of their fractured family. For a fleeting moment, a fragile sense of optimism flickered within Cinderella's heart, a desperate longing for the return of familial harmony. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of politeness, the true nature of Lady Tremaine and her daughters began, like a slow poison, to reveal itself. Their initial warmth curdled into a chilling indifference, then sharpened into thinly veiled disdain. They saw not a grieving child in need of comfort, but a rival for her father's diminishing attention and unwelcome presence in their new domain. Cinderella's gentle nature, her inherent goodness, seemed to ignite a bitter envy within their hearts. They observed her quiet beauty, her natural grace, and saw it as a threat to their own superficial charms. Then the final, devastating blow fell. Cinderella's father, weakened by a lingering ailment, perhaps even by the quiet sorrow that had shadowed his final years, followed his beloved wife into the eternal slumber. With his last breath, the last vestige of protection, the last ember of his boundless love, vanished from Cinderella's life. The house, once a haven of security and affection, became an oppressive cage. Its silence, once comforting, was now filled with the cold, unfeeling indifference of her new family. With no one to intervene, no one to speak for her, Cinderella's fate was sealed. She was stripped of her fine clothes, her comfortable room, and her very identity. Her days became an endless cycle of toil, relegated to the damp, cold scullery, burdened with chores from the first sliver of dawn until late into the starless night. Her hands, once soft and delicate, grew rough and calloused from endless scrubbing. Her spirit, though bruised and tested, miraculously refused to break. The warmth of the hearth, however meager, became her only comfort. The tiny, quick-witted mice and the shy, watchful birds her only silent companions. They, unlike her cruel stepfamily, saw her plight and offered unspoken comfort, and with a cruel twist of irony, they named her Cinderella, a mocking jest referencing the ever-present cinders and ash that perpetually clung to her, the emblem of her servitude. Her existence became a stark contrast to the life she had once known, a life of drudgery and isolation. Yet through it all, a tiny ember of hope flickered deep within her, fueled by the unwavering spirit her mother had instilled. Cinderella's days unfolded in a monotonous, relentless cycle of arduous tasks, each more demanding than the last. She swept the drafty halls until her arms ached, cooked elaborate meals for a family that offered no thanks, and mended their fine clothes until her fingers were sore and pricked. All the while, her stepmother and stepsisters, Drusilla and Anastasia, demanded constant attention, their voices sharp and their criticisms biting, while they adorned themselves in silks and velvets, jewels that glittered with stolen light, and laces that cascaded like frozen waterfalls. Cinderella wore only threadbare rags, her hair often matted with dust and soot. Yet, through this relentless servitude, she clung to the kindness her mother had taught her, a quiet, resilient strength that glowed faintly even in the darkest corners. She found solace in small, stolen moments, humming a forgotten lullaby as she scrubbed the floor, sharing a minuscule crumb of bread with a hopeful bird outside the kitchen window, or simply gazing at the distant, unblemished sky, dreaming of a world beyond her cinder-strewn reality. Then, like a bolt of lightning across a darkened sky, a grand announcement echoed through the kingdom, reverberating from the highest castle turrets to the humblest village cottages. The benevolent king, wishing to find a suitable and beloved bride for his only son, the dashing and compassionate Prince Charming, declared a royal ball. Every eligible maiden in the land was invited to attend, an unprecedented opportunity to dance with the prince, to capture his discerning eye, and perhaps to become the future queen. The news electrified the stepmother and stepsisters. Their eyes, usually cold, gleamed with an almost feverish intensity, their minds instantly consumed with dizzying dreams of grandeur, glittering jewels, and the ultimate prize, a royal alliance that would elevate their status beyond their wildest imaginings. The air in the house crackled with their frantic excitement, a stark contrast to Cinderella's quiet, yet profound, stirring. For Cinderella, the announcement of the ball was a bittersweet melody, a tantalizing whisper of a life she could only dream of, a longing, deep and unfamiliar, stirred within her heart. To dance, just once, to feel the elegant swish of a beautiful gown, to experience a single moment of grace, of freedom, of being truly seen. The very idea seemed a cruel mockery of her existence, a cruel fantasy played out against the backdrop of her daily drudgery. Yet, a tiny, persistent spark of hope, fragile and foolish as it seemed, refused to be extinguished. She imagined the soaring music, the dazzling lights, the joyful laughter, the swirling colors of a ballroom filled with light, a world so utterly removed from her cinder-strewn reality, from the oppressive silence and constant demands of her current life. The house, already a whirlwind of demanding activity, intensified into a maelstrom of frantic preparations for the ball. Silks were unrolled across every available surface, their rich textures spilling like liquid jewels. Laces were meticulously chosen, their intricate patterns scrutinized for flaws. Feathers, plumes, and ribbons were arranged and rearranged, discarded and rediscovered. The stepsisters, consumed by vanity and a desperate need to outshine every other maiden, demanded countless adjustments to their elaborate gowns, endless hours of hairstyling, and constant, unwavering attention to their every whim and fleeting desire. Cinderella, amidst her endless stream of chores, found herself assisting in their preparations, her nimble fingers working on their intricate embroidery, her quiet taste often guiding their choices, her own dreams remaining unspoken, unheard, a secret nestled deep within her bruised heart. Driven by an unyielding spirit, a quiet rebellion against her circumstances, Cinderella began a secret endeavor. From discarded scraps of fabric, forgotten ribbons, and a few precious moments stolen from her relentless chores, she painstakingly fashioned a simple gown. It was humble, yet beautiful in its ingenuity, stitched with hope and determination. As the day of the ball drew agonizingly near, Cinderella presented her dress, a silent plea in her eyes. Her stepmother, with a chillingly sweet smile that promised much and delivered little, granted her permission to attend on the condition that all her chores were completed, a feat she knew to be almost impossible. As Cinderella, heart pounding with newfound hope, began to prepare, her stepsisters, consumed by a venomous jealousy, descended upon her. Their eyes, sharp with malice, saw only the quiet beauty of her creation, the elegance that even simple fabric could not conceal. With shrieks of feigned outrage and bitter envy, they tore her precious dress to shreds, ripping the delicate fabric, scattering the painstakingly sewn ribbons like withered leaves. Cinderella stood heartbroken amidst the scattered fragments of her dream, her fragile hope dissolving into bitter tears, leaving her utterly defeated, the vision of the ball a cruel mirage. Utterly defeated, her spirit crushed under the weight of relentless cruelty, Cinderella fled the oppressive confines of the house. She ran to the solitude of the overgrown garden, seeking refuge amidst the silent, watchful trees. Her quiet sobs mingled with the gentle evening breeze, each tear a testament to her shattered hope, a reflection of the injustice that seemed to follow her every attempt at happiness. The thought of the ball, once a distant fantasy, now felt like an unreachable star, forever beyond her grasp. She was utterly alone, her spirit at its lowest ebb, convinced that all good things were forever out of her reach. Just as despair threatened to consume her, to plunge her into a darkness from which she might never emerge, a gentle, ethereal light began to pulse nearby. It pulsed with a soft, iridescent glow, growing steadily brighter, radiating a warmth that permeated the cold evening air. From its shimmering core, a figure emerged, bathed in an otherworldly luminescence. It was her fairy godmother, her eyes twinkling with kindness, her presence radiating in ancient wisdom and boundless love. Cinderella, startled yet strangely comforted by the sudden apparition, knew instinctively that help had arrived, a beacon of hope in her darkest, most desolate hour. She looked at the fairy godmother, her eyes wide with disbelief, and a tiny, fragile seed of hope began to sprout anew in her heart. With a graceful sweep of her star-dusted wand, the fairy godmother began her wondrous work. Her voice, a melodic whisper, filled the air with ancient incantations. A humble pumpkin, round and unassuming, nestled amongst the garden's leafy vines, began to swell and transform. Its rough, earthy rind became a polished, gilded shell, its stem a gleaming handle. In a blink, it stood before Cinderella as a magnificent carriage, shimmering with inner light, fit for a queen, its wheels already poised for flight. Cinderella watched in silent awe, her tears forgotten, replaced by a surge of disbelief and dawning hope. The impossible was taking shape before her very eyes, a testament to a magic she had only ever dreamed of. Next, the fairy godmother's gaze fell upon the scampering mice and a lazy, plump lizard that had been Cinderella's silent companions. With another flick of the wand, accompanied by a shower of glittering dust, the tiny mice grew, their furry bodies morphing into powerful, majestic horses, their coats gleaming, their manes flowing like silk. They pawed the ground impatiently, ready to pull the grand carriage with boundless energy. The lizard, roused from its slumber, underwent its own astonishing metamorphosis, transforming into a distinguished coachman, his humble form replaced by a liveried figure, his eyes bright with newfound purpose. The transformation was complete, a magical retinue created from the most unassuming, often overlooked creatures. Finally, the fairy godmother turned her compassionate gaze upon Cinderella herself. With a final, graceful sweep of her wand, accompanied by a soft, almost inaudible chime, the tattered rags that had been Cinderella's perpetual uniform simply fell away, dissolving into motes of light. In their place stood a gown of breathtaking beauty. It shimmered with the luminescence of captured starlight, woven from the finest, softest silk, and adorned with delicate jewels that seemed to capture the very essence of the night sky. Cinderella looked down, hardly recognizing the radiant reflection that stared back at her from the polished surface of the carriage door. She was no longer the Cinder Girl, but a vision of ethereal elegance, a true princess bathed in magic. As a final, exquisite touch, the fairy godmother conjured a pair of slippers unlike any other seen in the realm, fashioned from the purest, clearest glass. They sparkled with an almost otherworldly brilliance, perfectly encasing Cinderella's delicate feet. They were fragile yet strong, a symbol of the magic that now enveloped her, promising to carry her to a night of dreams, a night where anything seemed possible. But all magic, the fairy godmother cautioned, has its limits, its own set of rules. Her voice, though gentle, held a firm solemnity. As the great clock in the palace tower struck midnight, the spell would break. The grand carriage would revert to its humble pumpkin form. The majestic horses and distinguished coachmen would transform back into their former, unassuming selves, and the magnificent gown and sparkling glass slippers would vanish, leaving Cinderella once again in her familiar rags. She must remember this, she was warned, and return before the final, fateful chime. With a final, reassuring smile, the fairy godmother faded back into the shimmering light from which she had appeared, leaving Cinderella breathless with anticipation, standing ready to step into a dream. The magnificent carriage, now a beacon of light against the deepening twilight, glided silently through the grand palace gates. Its unexpected arrival caused an immediate stir among the assembled guests, a ripple of curiosity spreading through the elegant throng as Cinderella stepped out, her radiance drawing every eye in the grand ballroom. A hush fell, then whispers of admiration rippled through the crowd like a gentle breeze. Her hair, perfectly styled, seemed to catch the light, and her gown shimmered with an almost ethereal glow, setting her apart from all others. Her stepsisters and stepmother, present amidst the throng of aristocrats, preening and posturing, failed completely to recognize the luminous maiden. They were too absorbed in their own vanity, their own desperate attempts to catch the prince's eye, to see beyond her changed appearance, to recognize the familiar face beneath the magical transformation. They simply dismissed her as a beautiful, unknown noblewoman, Prince Charming, who had been dutifully greeting guests, his smile polite, but his eyes holding a hint of weariness, found his gaze drawn irresistibly to the mysterious newcomer. Her grace, her ethereal beauty, and the quiet dignity she carried captivated him instantly. He felt an inexplicable pull, a sense of destiny, unlike anything he had ever known. He approached her, his eyes filled with a newfound wonder, a question unspoken in their depths. Without a word, he offered her his hand for a dance, a silent invitation to a journey of discovery. They danced, and with every graceful turn, every shared glance, a profound connection blossomed between them. The prince was utterly enchanted, unable to tear his eyes from her luminous presence. He had danced with many maidens that night, but none possessed her quiet charm, her inherent goodness that shone through her radiant appearance. Cinderella, for the first time in years, felt light, unburdened, truly seen. The world outside the ballroom faded, leaving only the soaring music, the exhilarating rhythm of their dance, and the intoxicating sense of being truly alive, cherished, and utterly free. They spoke little, for their connection was deeper than words, conveyed through the language of smiles and shared glances, a burgeoning understanding that transcended their brief acquaintance. Lost in the enchantment of the moment, bathed in the glow of the prince's unwavering attention, Cinderella paid little heed to the relentless passage of time. The hours flew by like fleeting birds, each one filled with joyous wonder and a blossoming affection. The prince, utterly captivated, spent the entire evening by her side, completely oblivious to all other maidens, his heart already given to this mysterious stranger. They spoke of dreams, of beauty, of the quiet longing for connection that resonated deeply within both of their souls. Cinderella felt a happiness she hadn't experienced since her mother's passing, a pure, intoxicating joy that made her forget all her past hardships. Suddenly, piercing through the joyous strains of the orchestra, the first resonant chime of the palace clock echoed through the grand ballroom, announcing the hour of midnight. Cinderella's heart lurched within her chest, a sudden, icy wave of panic washing over her. The fairy godmother's urgent warning, forgotten in the exhilarating magic of the evening, crashed back into her mind with terrifying clarity. The spell. She had to leave now before everything vanished, before her true, humble identity was cruelly revealed. The chimes continued, each one a hammer blow against her fleeting dream. Without a word, a desperate gasp escaping her lips, Cinderella pulled away from the bewildered prince. She raced from the ballroom, her shimmering gown flowing behind her like liquid moonlight, a blur of starlight against the grand architecture. The prince, shocked and utterly desperate, called out to her, his voice filled with urgency, but she was too swift, driven by the terrifying urgency of the breaking spell. Down the grand staircase she flew, her only thought to escape before her true identity was revealed, before the magic dissolved and left her exposed and vulnerable. As she fled, scrambling down the countless steps in her desperate haste, one of her exquisite glass slippers slipped from her foot. It lay forgotten on the cold, polished marble, a solitary, sparkling testament to the fleeting magic of the night, a fragile relic of a dream. She did not stop, daring not to risk a single precious moment, knowing that the final, fateful chime was imminent, marking the end of her magical reprieve. The prince, reaching the top of the stairs, saw only her vanishing form, a glimpse of the luminous gown disappearing into the darkness. And then his eyes fell upon the single, exquisite slipper shining like a fallen star. His heart sank, but a fierce determination ignited in his eyes. Heartbroken yet utterly determined, the prince clutched the delicate glass slipper in his hand. It was the only clue, the sole tangible piece of the mysterious maiden who had so completely captured his heart and imagination. He vowed then and there that he would search every corner of his vast kingdom, every house, every eligible woman, until he found the foot that perfectly fit this unique, fragile shoe. He would not rest, he declared. He would not yield until he found his enigmatic princess, the woman who had stolen his heart with a single dance. The very next morning, a solemn yet hopeful royal proclamation was issued throughout the land. The prince himself, accompanied by his loyal duke and a retinue of attendants, would personally visit every home, allowing every maiden the chance to try on the glass slipper. The woman whose foot it perfectly encased, whose unique elegance matched the slipper's form, would be his bride, his queen, the true lady of his heart. Hope and excitement swept through the kingdom like wildfire, and every eligible girl, from the highest noblewoman to the humblest peasant, prepared themselves, preening and primping, for the royal visit, for the chance at a fairy tale. The royal procession moved diligently from house to house, the prince's hope dimming slightly with each failed attempt. Maidens, eager and hopeful, some even desperate, tried every trick imaginable to squeeze their feet into the fragile slipper. Some were clearly too large, their toes spilling over the delicate edges. Others were far too small, their feet rattling loosely within its confines. Some tried to force it with painful determination, their faces contorted with effort, but the glass slipper remained stubbornly unyielding, a perfect fit for only one foot in the entire kingdom. Their attempts were clumsy, their desperation evident, and the prince's face showed only polite, yet growing disappointment. Finally, the royal carriage stopped before Cinderella's humble dwelling, a shadow amidst the more imposing residences. The stepmother and stepsisters, their faces alight with renewed desperate hope, preened and pushed each other forward, absolutely certain that one of them, through sheer will or a miracle, would be the chosen bride. Cinderella, observing from her usual hidden corner, watched with a quiet, aching heart the vivid memory of her magical night a bittersweet, painful secret. As the royal retinue entered the house, the stepmother, ever cunning, her eyes darting nervously towards Cinderella, ordered her to be locked in her cramped attic room. She feared that Cinderella's simple presence, her very aura of quiet goodness, might somehow spoil her own daughter's chances, might reveal their own commonness. A heavy key turned in the lock, and Cinderella was once again imprisoned, separated from her destiny by a cruel twist of fate, her heart sinking with a renewed sense of helplessness. First, Drusilla, then Anastasia, with much huffing and puffing, with grunts of effort and strained expressions, attempted to force their feet into the delicate slipper. They pushed, They pulled. They even tried to contort their toes into unnatural positions, but the glass slipper remained unyielding, a testament to its perfect design, a fit for only one unique foot. Their attempts were clumsy, their desperation painfully evident, and the prince's face showed only polite, resigned disappointment. He was about to leave, his hope almost extinguished. Just as the prince prepared to leave, a small, knowing voice from the attendants, perhaps a servant who had witnessed Cinderella's kindness and the stepmother's cruelty, softly suggested that there was another maiden in the house, a neglected stepdaughter. The prince, his curiosity instantly piqued, his heart stirring with a faint, almost forgotten hope, insisted that all eligible maidens, without exception, must try the slipper. Reluctantly, her face a mask of bitter fury, the stepmother was forced to unlock the attic door. Cinderella, emerging from the shadows, her simple, tattered dress unable to conceal her inherent grace, approached the prince. He looked at her, and for a fleeting moment, a flicker of recognition, a whisper of a memory passed through his eyes. He remembered the luminous beauty, the quiet dignity that had so captivated him. As she gently placed her foot into the slipper, it slid on with effortless grace, a perfect, undeniable fit. The glass shimmered around her foot as if it had found its true home. As the slipper settled perfectly, a faint, familiar glow enveloped Cinderella. In that instant, her humble attire transformed, just for a moment, into the magnificent, starlit gown she had worn at the ball, a flash of dazzling beauty confirming the truth. The prince's face, which had been solemn and tired, broke into a joyous, radiant smile. There was no longer any doubt. He had found her, his mysterious dancer, the true princess of his dreams, the woman whose spirit shone brighter than any jewel. He knelt before her, not out of custom, but out of pure, unadulterated love and admiration. The kingdom rejoiced. Cinderella was escorted to the palace, where her true identity and the prince's unwavering love were celebrated with widespread jubilation. Soon after, the grand royal wedding took place, a spectacle of joy, a testament to love, resilience, and the triumph of good over malice. Cinderella, once a cinder-covered servant, became a beloved princess, and soon after, a most benevolent queen, ruling with a kindness that stemmed from her own endured hardships. Cinderella and her prince ruled with wisdom and compassion, their reign marked by peace, prosperity, and an unwavering commitment to justice. She never forgot the kindness of her animal friends, nor the magic of her fairy godmother, often sharing tales of their silent companionship. And though she had faced immense hardship, endured unimaginable cruelty, Cinderella's heart remained as pure and kind as it had been in her earliest days. Before sorrow touched her life, she lived a life filled with joy and purpose, a living testament to the enduring power of hope, the unwavering strength of a pure heart, and the quiet magic that lies within every act of kindness. And they truly did live happily ever after. One more time, a slow, peaceful breath in, feeling a wave of tranquility wash over you, and a slow, complete breath out, letting go of any remaining stiffness, any lingering thoughts, just letting go. In this quiet moment, with the world hushed by snow, your mind might conjure a faint whisper, a gentle thought about a small, intriguing puzzle that has arisen on this magnificent train, a delicate mystery, like a wisp of smoke, a fascinating pattern of quiet observations that a very clever, calm mind might be considering. But it's nothing to worry about. It's just a fleeting image, a gentle curiosity that simply drifts through your mind like a snowflake and then melts away, disappearing as easily as it appeared. You are safe. You are warm. You are deeply relaxed. The train is a steady, unmoving haven. It's a quiet island of peace in a snowy, silent world. You are drifting now, deeper and deeper into the softest sleep. The silence outside is a soft blanket, wrapping you in stillness. The warmth inside is a comforting embrace. Let your mind clear. Let your thoughts become like the soft snow outside, falling gently, then melting away, disappearing. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Just rest, just breathe. Each breath takes you deeper, deeper, into the most peaceful sleep you have ever known. You are completely surrounded by calm, completely safe. Sleep deeply now. Sleep soundly. You are exactly where you need to be. Good night. Sleep well. Rest, 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 rest.